As the starter's flag drops, 94 men and women from 5 countries set out on one of the great adventures of motorsport, the Shell 4000 Rally. For 6 days, they'll live in their cars, pausing only for precious hours of sleep at Calgary, Regina, Winnipeg, Sault Ste. Marie, and Toronto. Destination, Montreal. The challenge, getting there on time. As each day's run begins, crews receive instructions showing the route to follow and the average speeds they must maintain. These speeds are well below the posted limits, but there's no margin for errors. Barely out of Vancouver in the excitement of the start, crews are confronted with the first of many time controls to come during the next 6 days. Navigators run to get their time cards stamped. Many controls are not shown on the instructions. Crews must reach 60 of them between Vancouver and Montreal at exactly the right minute. With the first dim light of dawn come difficulties. The Douglas Lake Road, famous ranch country in the heart of British Columbia, the home of cattle and horses, but not of cars. There are no signposts here, and almost no roads. Which way do we go now? Well, that seems to make it unanimous. 2 cars took a wrong turn here, became hopelessly mired in mud, and weren't seen or heard from for 12 hours. This is a rugged back road, potholed and rutted, and liberally adorned with mud, rocks, and other assorted hazards. As the dawn creeps over the mountains, Calgary is still 9 hours away, and some drivers have time for rubbernecking as they weave through the magnificent scenery of the Rocky Mountains. Here, the smooth Trans-Canada Highway winds up through beautiful mountain scenery and the recently completed Rogers Pass section. Don't overlook anything. A different road surface calls for different tires. Klaus Ross and Brent Davies from Toronto were fascinated by the local wildlife in Banff National Park. The fascination seems to be mutual. The Rockies are behind us now, and after long hours at the wheel, it's comforting to know that Calgary lies not too far ahead. At the end of each day's run, there's a special test of cars and drivers. On the outskirts of Calgary, cars are timed on a short stretch of hill close to other traffic. Scores here will be used to break ties at the end of the rally. Falcon carves a smooth path up the hill. These fellows ought to come back to... The 600 miles from Vancouver has already punished many of the cars. Just 60 minutes are allowed each night for repairs before the crews rest up and get ready for another hard day's drive. The second leg of the rally runs south and then east to Regina. The crews leave at 3 on a chilly morning. Already, 2 of the 47 starters have been eliminated. Good morning. Careful, Mrs. Ferguson. The sun may be up, but winter hasn't quite deserted the Alberta foothills yet. On to Lethbridge, where there's a surprise safety check. Lights, brakes, and steering are carefully scrutinized. Bob Alexander won last year's Sportsmanship Award with his partner, Jim Jellett. World-famous Belgian driver Olivier Gendebien is on his first Shell 4000 rally. Now it's east toward the prairies, Canada's breadbasket. With clear weather and good roads, crews find themselves a few minutes ahead of schedule and must wait for their correct time before reaching the next control, or they'll be penalized for early arrival. Any competitors who thought the prairies were flat find out how wrong they were as the route swings into Cypress Hills Park. Trust a rally organizer to find hills on the prairies. Nearly half the cars in the rally have been entered by manufacturers, while others are sponsored by automobile dealers. But more than 1/3 of the competitors are private entrants, cab drivers and policemen, engineers and housewives, artists, salesmen, and bankers. Manufacturers use the rally to test their cars under every conceivable condition. For the private entries, it provides a week of fun, keen competition, and an unrivaled opportunity to explore the highways and byways of Canada. A good rain to replace the sunshine would present a further challenge to the drivers, and also help Saskatchewan farmers who are suffering one of the worst spring droughts in many years. That's more like it. Lady Luck has deserted Ralph Reed and Jim Matthews this time, and right within sight of a time control. They're almost close enough to hear the ticking of the clock, and every minute lost is a point against them. Rallies are like golf. The man with the lowest score wins, and points lost can never be retrieved. One thing Ralph and Jim are going to remember about the Shell Rally is the friendliness of Western farmers. Glenn Ferguson is obviously happy to find the control. En route at least, if not on time. All the 60 rally control points are faithfully and expertly manned by volunteer members of motorsport clubs from Vancouver to Montreal. You have to have faith in your navigator. If he says turn left it is, even if it does look wrong. The cautious driver will get a third opinion from a local man on the street. I told you that left turn looked wrong. Gendebien and Carey get their information straight from the horse's mouth. The unusual names of some of the prairie towns and cities no doubt give a chuckle to visitors to Canada. After a night in Regina, fog with the threat of rain faces the 44 crews remaining in the rally as they point their cars toward Winnipeg on the third day of the contest. Reading through their instructions quickly, the drivers soon realize what lies ahead: the Qu'Appelle Valley, prairie gumbo that can resemble a bottomless pot of glue in early spring. Instead of gumbo, the drivers find another hazard: dust. Billowing clouds of it swirl about the cars, and you hope your air cleaner is doing its job. Jump to it, men. There may be a time control around the next corner. Jim Luce's Volkswagen is one of 17 private entries. Forget something? Both Jim and his navigator, Ross Garrison, are research chemists on their idea of a relaxing holiday. Hunting prohibited, eh? Well, the only hunting here today will be for the correct route. The muddy road is little more than a couple of wheel tracks across the rangeland. I knew it. We should have stopped at that last Shell station. Another crew must have played Sir Galahad, because here comes the DKW now. While Davy scampers to clock in, Ross dives under the hood to make hasty adjustments. Come on, we're late. Manitoba's well-known Riding Mountain National Park is not at its best at this time of year. Everyone bail out. Strange people, these rallyists. Johnson and Brown are still digging as the more fortunate squeeze by. Here's some of that prairie gumbo. You need a steady hand, a good car, and some luck to escape the clutches of this mud hole. Later on, driving conditions improved tremendously in spite of the rain. An Acadian leaves the park to find the McQuirk brothers working on their Bentley. The 1951 car is the oldest in the rally and left Vancouver with over 358,000 miles under its hood. Winnipeg, the grain capital of Canada. 3 days down and 3 to go. As they maneuver their Chevy 2 through the day's test, Doyen and Gibbs hold the lead in the rally with the remarkably low score of only 1 penalty point. Battling for second place in the individual honors with a score of 4 points are the Falcon of McLennan and Dempsey and the Peugeot of Curran and Carney. In the team category, the 3 Falcons rule the roost with a combined score of 14. Behind them lie the 3 Chryslers, followed closely by the Renaults. Ross and Davies take every minute of the hour allowed for checking their vehicle. Ice on West Hawk Lake shimmers in the early morning sun of the 4th day as the drivers embark on the 900-mile trek to Sault Ste. Marie. The drivers are looking forward to a smooth run, but Highway 594 puts an end to that idea. With navigators searching for the correct route, the town of Eagle River hasn't seen this kind of activity in years. Art Dempsey and Paul McLennan are on time at the control point in the pulp and paper town of Dryden. Tinkerbell, a veteran campaigner with 10,000 miles of rally experience. Safety always gets careful attention on the rally. During this check at Fort William, Curran and Carney were assessed penalty points for a defective signal light and dropped down in the standings. The Trans-Canada Highway around Lake Superior didn't exist a few years ago, but now the rugged grandeur of the scenery makes it a major tourist attraction. Nearing the Wawa control point on the way to the Sioux, the 4th day closes in a blaze of glory. From Sault Ste. Marie, the cars aim east and then south for the 5th day's run into Toronto. The weather continues to be remarkably good for the month of April, and the competitors are wondering if it will hold to the end of the rally. It's a tourist's and a rallyist's paradise. Winding roads, shimmering lakes, busy rivers, jagged rock cuts, providing an ever-changing panorama as the cars head for North Bay, the gateway to Northern Ontario. The Stingray, driven by Maria Van Niftrick, came from New Orleans to Vancouver to take part in the Shell 4000. Let's hope they know where they're going. The correct route here is straight ahead. The strays return. Jelminski and Bunch cut the corner fine in their Acadian. Much too fine, as it turns out. And precious minutes are wasted changing a tire. Seatbelts fastened, they're off again, wondering where the next control will turn up. Rallying is growing rapidly in popularity in Canada and provides endless opportunities for travel for the enthusiasts. Bill Silvera and Lloyd Howell are greeted by a blaze of television lights in Toronto. Only 3 cars had a perfect score today, and their Falcon was one of them. It's 5 a.m. when the first cars leave the Shell Tower, well-known landmark at the Canadian National Exhibition grounds. The 6th and final day of the rally. The drivers are on edge. The weather's been too good, and the international competition tough. Any miscalculation of navigation or driving could ruin a scorecard and knock a crew out of contention. The route follows a maze of little-used backcountry roads around the Kawartha Lakes. In the early morning sunshine, the rallyists passed through the awakening Ontario town of Médoc. The competitors had to find this road from degrees of latitude and longitude given in the instructions, a real challenge to the navigators. Ottawa, the nation's capital, and brilliant sunshine. The customary inquest on the morning's run gets underway at the luncheon stop. Montreal is an easy 125 miles away now, but no rally takes the easy route when a tougher one is available. The organizer plays his last card and sends the cars north for 100 miles into the beautiful Laurentian playgrounds, over the twisting, narrow roads of rural Quebec. The route requires full concentration and careful navigation and driving by all the crews, by now anxious to reach the end of their long journey. The panorama of beauty presented by the Quebec countryside relieves the mounting tension on this, the final day. Rallyists are experienced drivers. As with all good drivers, care and courtesy are second nature. Leading the rally on the 6th day, as on the 1st, are Dick Doyen and Clay Gibbs of the United States. As they leave one of the last time controls, victory is within their grasp. Finally, 6 days after leaving Vancouver, the welcome lights of Montreal. thousands jam Place Ville-Marie to welcome the competitors at the finish. Among the early arrivals are Jean de Bienne, tired but happy, being greeted by rally organizer Jim Gunn. Homer Trotter in a Studebaker. Mrs. Brent Davies, happy to have her husband back. To blonde Juliette Legare, Montreal is home. Jean Stiegel, bubbling with excitement. And here are the winners. Doyen and Gibbs lost only 2 points in 4,000 miles of driving. An incredible achievement. Competitors, their families and friends gather the next evening for the victory banquet. Olivia Jean de Bienne and Mike Carey in a Volvo gain first award in the imported car class. Diana Carter and Gillian Field were the best of the lady competitors in a Studebaker. Donald and Colin McQuirk win the Sportsmanship Award in their Bentley, while Frank Curran and Ron Carney take the private entrance prize in a Peugeot. But the biggest hand of all goes to Dick Doyen and Clay Gibbs in a Chevy 2, overall winners of the 1963 Shell 4000, the longest car rally in the world.